Hey guys, welcome to the Learn to Love 101 podcast, where our goal is to help you to do love and life better. I am Clifton Brantley, your host, and I'm so glad that you've joined me today. How has your week been? How have things been for you? It's been a crazy week, it's been a busy week for me, but I am so glad to be with you guys again to share just a little bit of information so that you can do love and life better. As always, we're going to start off with a quote for today. Today's quote is actually going to come from the Bible. Quotes don't always come from the Bible, but today it is because this is actually what I want to talk about today. So, this quote comes from Proverbs 4, verse 23. Here's what it says: Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Guard your heart above all else because for it determines the course of your life. Um, so I was talking to several clients this week, but one in particular about this particular topic of guarding your heart. And so in my office, I usually have so I'll draw this draw a diagram of a tree, and I put little dots on the tree, and the dots represent apples. And I give them a little legend, and so I draw a dot and I put a line that says, that's apple. And then the tree, it has the trunk, of course, and then I draw the ground, and then I draw roots. Okay, trying to give you a visual. So then I asked the client, what kind of tree is this? Based on the legend, of course, they say, well, it's an apple tree. And I say, how do you know it's an apple tree? I said, because it has apples on it. Right. If you walk up to an orange tree, how do you know it's an orange tree? Well, it has oranges on it. That is correct. So you can recognize the kind of fruit tree. You can recognize what kind of fruit tree a fruit tree is by the fruit that it's bearing, right? Now, why does an apple tree or an orange tree, whatever kind of tree, but we're going to go with an apple tree. Why does an apple tree have apples on it? Like if we cut all the apples off the tree, what's going to grow on the tree next season? Apples. Why is that? Because there's appleism, if we want to call it that, in the roots of the tree. If appleism was not in the roots of the tree, then it would not produce apples in the tree. You understand? So now in this diagram that I draw, I say the fruit of the tree represent your words and your behavior. Okay, the fruit of the tree represents your word and your behavior. But the roots of the tree, that represents your heart. So then, the message I'm trying to communicate to you is this: whatever is in your heart is what's going to come out of you. So whenever you see someone producing a certain kind of fruit, that is an indication of what's in their heart. Even in I believe it's over in Luke chapter 6, Jesus even talks about he says the same thing. He says that a good tree can't bear bad fruit and a bad tree can't bear good fruit. And he says that a good person brings good out of the goodness of their heart. And an evil person produces evil out of the evil that's in their heart. Right? And in that same context, he says, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Okay. So here where it says, guard your heart above all else because it determines the course of your life. Oftentimes I tell people the reason you're getting this behavior from your partner or from yourself is because of the roots or because what's in your heart. Now, the thing is, most of us, our hearts were tainted in childhood. Okay. It was tainted in childhood. And most of the times it wasn't intentionally tainted, right? We're raised by flawed people. Our parents are not perfect. And then to add to that, we as children were not only not perfect, we were extremely immature. Our minds and our brains were underdeveloped. And so we couldn't even understand the world the way that the world is. And then here's this adult with a different perspective, completely different perspective of the world, trying to teach me how to do life on this planet. There's bound to be some mistakes and there's bound to be some injuries. And so I try to tell people, just because your childhood was not obviously abusive, just because your childhood, you wasn't molested or you wasn't, beaten with a switch or extension cord, that does not mean that you don't have childhood injuries that you need to heal. Most often, people who think they've had regular childhoods, when they have troubles in marriage, they never look to their childhood as the source. And so, really, they never can get to the root of their behavior. And most of them, by the time they're married, has already accepted that whatever negative or bad behavior they have, well, that's just who I am. All right, that's just me. And what I try to convince clients of is that's not true. Why do I say that's not true? Because I guess I go based on number one, how God designed us as human beings. And then number two, most of the things that people say, well, that's just me, it's obvious that they've learned it. And I say obvious, I guess obvious to me because I'm a therapist. But my goal is to help, the client to see it as well. So guard your heart above all else because it determines the course of your life. So as a child, how do you guard your heart? Well, you can't really. Okay. You really can't. But as an adult, what you can do is look at the fruit that you're producing and then recognize, hey, something must be in my heart that I don't necessarily want in there because I don't like this fruit that I'm producing. Okay. So then that's when you take a mirror, not a real physical mirror, but a metaphoric mirror, right? An emotional mirror, and you look at yourself and you examine. One of the things that I've become is a rigorous self examiner. And the reason for that is because I want to detect any kind of emotional cancer early, right? I want to detect it early before it gets to stage 2, 3, or 4. You understand what I'm saying? And so, looking in the mirror, Michael Jackson says, let's start with the man in the mirror. Look at yourself to see, why am I producing this fruit when I don't think that that is in my heart? I tell the story all the time. The reason that I started to do therapy when I did it back in, I don't remember what year it was. Maybe it was 40, 41. But I went to therapy and, the therapist told me that my self-esteem was not at the appropriate level and my self-love was not at the appropriate level. And I did not agree, right? I did not see what she saw. I certainly didn't feel like my my self-esteem and my self-love was not at the appropriate levels. I felt confident. I thought I loved me. I thought I knew me. But after that session, the one thing that I did do, because at that point, I had already become a rigorous self-examiner. So when I left, I began to pay attention to my behavior, and I noticed there were things uh, in my behavior that contradicted what I thought of me or what I thought of me. So I thought that I was confident and I thought that I had, appropriate self esteem. But at the same time, I could not explain this particular behavior that said, uh, that's not true about my self esteem. And so I never, how I felt about how I felt never changed. But I looked at the evidence, I looked at the fruit and said, you know what? Because I see the fruit, I'm going to do the work. And sure enough, once we started doing the work and started pulling back layers, oh my goodness, I had no idea all of what was in there was in there. And so at that point, I had to begin the process of, mm, let's say, fixing or changing or renewing my heart. Why? Because my bad relationship skills were coming from what was in my heart. Now, when we're talking about childhood and your heart is tainted, what kind of things from childhood can directly affect the way you show up in relationships? Well, number one, just the way you relate in general. We focus in childhood a lot on our children being successful at school, not getting in trouble, not getting anyone pregnant, you know, don't cause me any trouble, and make sure you make good grades so you can find yourself into a good college. But the thing that we do not do, or at least most of us don't do, is teach and guide our children and model for our children how to do relationships in a healthy way. Let me add that. How to do relationships in a healthy way. And so we have a bunch of smart individuals, or what we would consider smart, right? And did you know, sidebar, we consider smart people who know a lot of information, we call them smart. That's not really smart. You just know a lot of information. Smart is equivalent to intelligence, which they say by the time you're 5, your intelligence is pretty much set. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, sidebar. So anyway, we end up raising a group of smart individuals or information field individuals who suck at relationships. And I can say suck because a lot of them find their way to my office. Lawyers, doctors, engineers, um, all of the careers that we esteem in our society, including football and basketball, professional players, find their way to my office. And their issue is their relationship with themselves. It's not at a good place, which then causes them to not be able to have good relationships with their partners. And that relationship with themselves is more than likely, usually, the overwhelming majority of the time, is a result of injuries from childhood. So, um, but not to spend too much time on the childhood now. So, what do I do now? How do I fix what happened in childhood? Well, first you got to identify what it was, and then you just want to make sure that you are being honest with yourself. Make sure that you are being transparent. Like, you can lie to other folk. You shouldn't do that, but if you're gonna lie to people, don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to you, because that only hurts you. Okay, so you got to be honest with yourself. You got to, whatever you see, address it. Don't say, that's not that big of a deal, or my partner just needs to learn to deal with that. No, be vigorous about your self-examination and make it your commitment that I'm going to be the best partner that I can be for my partner. Why? Because I love them. Okay. So moving forward, so once you've done that work, then it says to guard your heart, meaning make sure you watch what you expose yourself to. If Here's a good one. For example, if you were exposed to pornography as a child, and it shifted or gave you an incorrect view of sex, right? And let's say, you at some point was uh, caught up in a sex addiction. You're past that now. You don't watch porn anymore, and you're better. Guarding your heart in this situation would look like, uh, when you're watching Power. First of all, you may not even watch Power, right? Or Power Book 2 or whatever. And that would just came to mind because of the things that you see in there. But guarding your heart for a former sex addict would be, if I'm going to watch Power, when the sex scenes come on, because the sex scenes in Power are just short of pornography. But if I'm going to watch Power, then I got to fast forward through the sex scenes. Or it would be even wiser to just not watch it at all. But that's guarding your heart. Guarding your heart is not being around other men or people who are always talking about sex. Guarding your heart is not hanging around people when you're married and they're single and they live the single life. And you know what I mean by that, right? That's guarding your heart. But guarding your heart also means um, not reading things you shouldn't be reading. And when I say shouldn't be reading, I don't like that word should, uh, but reading things that are going to make you vulnerable to the stronghold that you have overcome already. And because you've experienced this stronghold, that's what I'm calling it, uh, you're more susceptible to falling back into that if you don't guard your heart. And so that is what I mean by guarding your heart, or that's what Proverbs mean by guarding your heart. And listen to this part. Let me restate this again. Now, just a little bit of context. This is written by Solomon, at the time the wisest man in the world, and um, he was rich. He was rich, rich. Okay. Now, this rich, wise man of God who has experienced a lot of things and seen a lot of things, he said, above all else, there's a lot included in all else. He says, above all else, guard your heart. He didn't say guard your money. He didn't say guard your wife, guard your kids. He didn't say guard your car, guard your investments, guard your portfolio. No, he said, above all else, guard your heart, because from it flows the issues of life. I think that's somebody we should listen to. If they say he's the wisest man to ever live outside of Jesus, I think we should listen to this brother. And not only should we listen to him because he's wise, but because, at least for me, I found that it's true. Whatever, let me say this. So I have people come into my office, uh, and we do it too. We often blame our partner for our reaction to what they do, right? You made me curse you out, right? The reason I slammed the door is because you did such and such. And what I often tell them is that's not true. No one can make you do anything. No one can make you feel anything. The reason that you are doing what you are doing is because of how you respond to what your partner did. It's not because of what they did, it's because of how you respond to it. And how you respond to whatever you respond to, that's up to you. It's not up to them. So we often want people to stop pushing our buttons. But my stance is deactivate your buttons so they don't work. And then you don't have to worry about people pushing them. Okay. So what's in your heart is going to come out of your heart. And so the point that I was making is um, your partner may push your buttons, and then whatever comes out of you, you blame them. But the thing is, they did not put in you what's coming out of you. That's in your heart. So you no matter how angry they make you, if cursing them out is not in your heart, it can't come out of your mouth. Does that make sense? Yeah. If it's not in you, it cannot come out of you. The only thing that can come out of you, good or bad, is what's in you. And that today is how I that's how I continue to examine myself. When I see a behavior that I do not like, or that I don't believe suits the person I want to be, I start examining, where did that come from? I thought I dealt with that issue. Why is this here? And I start to examine, and I start to do the work to change that behavior by changing what's in my heart. Okay. So now I want to shift lanes because I did get some questions. I thank you guys for sending questions. I got a few questions. I'm only going to do 4 of them. And that's if I have time to do 4. But I'm going to do 4 of these questions. And If you want to submit questions, you can send them to me at Clifton at cliftonbrantley.com, or Clifton, that's Clifton with one F, Clifton, at abetterfamilynow.com. Send me your questions, and if I get a chance, I may answer them live on the air on the podcast. And I'm sure whatever you have, the question you have, someone else may have the same question. So that would be helpful to others. Okay. Okay. So this first question is from Susie. By the way, yes, I am going to call your first name when if it's on the card, or in the email when I see it, I will. And if you prefer not call your name, that's fine. I can do that. But anyway, this question is from Susie. Susie says, "Why is marriage so hard?" She start. Why is marriage so hard? Actually, I'm literally in the process of preparing a lesson, uh, a live video teaching on this exact topic, and so I really like this question. So I'm not going to go deep into all of what I'm preparing for this question, but I will say, why is marriage so hard? I'll give you a few reasons. Number one, marriage is hard because of, and these are not any kind of particular order, because of expectations. We bring expectations with us to marriage that our partner knows nothing about. And the reality is, a lot of our expectations, we don't know about them. And those are the ones that I'm talking about, really, the unspoken expectations, right? The unspoken expectations. For example, uh, you're doing marriage, and then you get home before your husband. When your husband gets home, he notices that you haven't started cooking, and he gets an attitude. Now, he had never communicated to you that he expected you to be cooking by the time he got home. But obviously, he expected that, or else he wouldn't be upset. He never communicated this expectation. And the way that he found out that he had the expectation is by when it wasn't met. That makes marriage hard. The reason is because we come to marriage with this mindset that you should know what I know. If I chose you to be a husband, then you know how to be the husband that I need you to be. If I chose you to be a wife, you know how to be the wife I chose you to be. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. Your partner was not raised to be the partner that you desire them to be. They were not raised to love you the way you desire to be loved. And honestly, they may not even love themselves the way they want to be loved. Okay. So these expectations. So that's one thing. That's one thing that makes marriage hard. You got to sit down. So the only expectations that are suitable for marriage are the ones that we both agree on. Okay. So another reason that marriage is hard, people come to marriage and they don't have a marriage mindset. A marriage mindset. What is a marriage mindset? A marriage mindset is when you put us or we before me. You put me before we. A marriage mindset is when I was single, I used to go to the gym every Saturday morning. Now that I'm married, I may think that that's still fine because I'm not harming anyone. I'm not doing anything that's anti marriage. But I still may need to check with my wife to see if she has a different routine on Sundays and her dream about marriage and what that looks like. Is it going to conflict with mine? If it does, who wins? Well, it's not a matter of winning. We come together, we compromise, and we figure out what works for our marriage. Okay? So, marriage mindset. What else makes marriage hard? I'll give you one more. Skills. Not having relational skills. That's a huge part of why marriage is so hard, because we get married, right? We know how to be in love. We know how to say I do, and we know how to, you know, at least we think we know how to be connected. But how to make the relationship thrive and work, that's where we get lost. Oftentimes, that's where we drop the ball because we never learn these relational skills, right? How to communicate, how to listen, how to resolve conflict, how to understand, how to create intimacy. See, in the beginning, we think intimacy is just, it just happens, and it does, but that's not real, right? When you get into marriage, you have to create intimacy. It doesn't just last automatically. Okay. Now, so and that actually uh, kind of leads into the second question. So the second question is from an anonymous source. They just put anonymous. I don't want my name read. I understand. So here's the second question. How do you reconnect when you've lost the connection? How do you how do you reconnect when you've lost the connection? That's a really good question, and it's a really deep and multi-layered question. Uh, but I'm gonna try to answer it in a way that is not 3 4 hours, but sufficient for you to understand. What do we do when we've lost connection and we want to regain it? First of all, you got to understand that losing connection is normal. Okay, nobody, no marriage, whether it's the masters of marriage or the disasters of marriage, no one stays quote unquote in love all the time, 24/7, forever. That's unrealistic. Now, being in love, the feeling of in love is just that, a feeling. And so I'm not tying that to connection, right? I'm just making the point that our strong feelings for each other don't last forever. And so then what that means is we now have to start to work for the connection. And if we don't, because see, in the beginning, when we're so in love, connection is normal. I mean, connection is, yeah, it's just automatic. But when we have to start working for it, that's when things start to break down. So losing connection in marriage is normal, right? And there's a way to get it back, but it's normal. So don't think because I don't feel the same way about my partner, the love must be dying. No, not necessarily. Okay. So first of all, realize connection is normal. The second thing, if you want to reconnect when the connection is lost, you have to be self-aware. You have to be self-aware. You have to know you. You have to know um, what you like and what you don't like. You have to know what turns you on, what turns you off. You have to know what makes you feel seen, what makes you feel valued. Okay. You got to know you. And then the other part is you have to know your partner. Why? Because you have to interact with them in a way that makes them light up like a Christmas tree. Yeah. Yeah. You have to know them. And then the third piece to that, know yourself, know your partner. And then the third piece, both of you have to want to be known. So another word for connection is intimacy, right? Intimacy. And you may have heard this said before. Uh, I use it in my book, and I believe it because I believe it's accurate. Intimacy can be understood as into me see. I want you to see me. I want to be seen, right? And I want to see you. That's necessary to restore the connection. If you guys don't want to be known, and when I say want to be known, I'm talking about your actions communicating that you want to be known. If you want to be known, then you have to let your partner, you got to send signals to say, hey, I want to be known. Or otherwise, you may be sending signals that you don't want to be known and not even know it. But you got to know yourself, you got to know your partner, and then you got to want to share you. You got to be open and transparent. I tell people transparency is the doorway to intimacy. Transparency is the doorway to intimacy. You can't be intimate without being vulnerable. And so, to get the connection back, you both have to work at it. If the connection is lost, it can't be just one of you. right? Because the connection is between both of you. So you have to do the work. You have to do the work of understanding your partner, learning how, what things light them up. And when I say light them up, I'm not talking, I'm not talking about gifts. I'm not talking about surface level things. I'm talking about the things that make them feel alive as a human, right? Things that make them feel seen, secure, and valued. Because when you are connected, that's how you feel. I, you see me. I feel secure in this relationship and I feel valued by you. When those are happening for both people, connection happens. Now, the danger in being disconnected is that we're human beings and we thrive on connection. And so, if the connection is broken for an extended amount of time, and I'm not giving a number to what that time is, but if it's an extended amount of time, then you open the door for the enemy of marriage to come in and sow seeds of doubt, sow seeds of confusion, and seeds of infidelity. So when you're disconnected, you want to get on that quickly to restore that so that you don't give the enemy a foothold to destroy your marriage. All right, next question. Are soulmates real? Are soulmates real? Um, so the nature of this question makes me believe that uh, this person, when you ask the question, are soulmates real? I'm thinking that you mean, are soulmates chosen by God, like predetermined? The answer to that question is no. God does not choose our mates for us. But if the question is it possible to have a soulmate? The answer is yes. Now, this is something else I explain in my book. Let me tell you about soulmates. So, a soulmate is not someone who God has pre-chosen for you to spend your life with. And the person he's chosen fits you like a glove, like nobody else. We don't have in scripture evidence for that. We don't have scripture to support that. My philosophy is this. If God will not choose your God for you, why would he choose your mate? Now, I do believe God leads us and guides us and gives us wisdom to make the right choices, the best choices for us. I do believe that. But I do not believe God comes down and lives our life for us, i.e., choosing our partners. No, I believe God gives us wisdom to choose. So, anyway, a soulmate, being chosen by God, no. But here's what a soulmate is. So, all of us have a soul. I like to say it this way, and I got this from Pastor Jeremy Foster. He said, I am a spirit. I live in a body and I have a soul. Okay, that's three parts of me. I am a spirit. I live in a body. I have a soul. The soul, I like to say it this way. Your soul is who you are at your core. Your soul is your version of humanity. Now, when I say your version of humanity, I don't mean your version like you get to make it up. I mean, it's yours like your arm is yours. Like that's your arm. But you didn't create your arm. Like you did not attach your arm to your body, but it's yours. So, in the same way, your soul is your version of humanity. Your likes, your dislikes, your goals, your dreams, your desires, your values, that stuff, your character, your personality, that stuff makes up your soul, right? So then, if that's the soul, a mate for that is someone who is suitable and compatible with who I am. Now, can you meet someone and automatically be soulmates? I don't believe so. I do believe you can meet someone and the connection is so strong that it feels like soulmates. The connection can be so strong that it feels like soulmates. But soulmates are built, right? Soulmates, we don't just walk into a soulmate ship. You meet someone and you guys begin to learn each other. First of all, you have to choose a suitable mate. You got to start there. And that's a whole nother topic. You find a suitable mate, and then you guys work to learn your partner so that we can become soulmates. Now, once you become soulmates, that is a different level of intimacy and relationship. I will say that. Not everybody finds a soulmate, or should I say, not everyone creates soulmate situations. But yes, soulmates are real, but you have to create it. It's not something that God does, it's something that we do. Okay, hope that makes sense. Last question. Me and my wife are two different people. We can never agree on anything. How can we fix that? Uh, that question is kind of okay. So that's kind of a long answer, but let me try to shorten it real quick. So two different people, we can never agree on anything. Okay, so the first thing, agreement is not the goal. So I'm assuming you're talking about in conflict. When you're talking about conflict resolution, agreement is not the goal. Agreement is not the goal in conflict resolution. Okay, the goal is to understand. So the fact, people always say, we are two different people. We think differently, and I don't say it, but what I be wanting to say is, that's everybody. Everybody's different. Of course, you're two different people. Of course, you think two totally different things. That's not why your marriage is uh, sideways. It's sideways because of pride and you guys not being willing to come to the middle with your different mindsets and find out how we can make this work. That's the issue, right? So, agreement isn't the goal. The goal is understanding. And then you got to have really good communication skills. One of the best communication skills is this skill taught to me by Dr. Richard Marks, which is called "Are You Saying?" And it's a way to communicate to the speaker in communication that the receiver understands what the speaker is saying. Now, it's similar to active listening. You may have heard about active listening, but this, in my opinion, is a little better than active listening. So here's what active listening is. Active listening is when your partner says something, you repeat back to them the words they said, and you start it off like this. So they say blah blah blah, then you say, "Okay, so I heard you say blah blah blah." Now, what I'm communicating to you when I say, "I heard you say blah blah blah," I'm telling you what I heard. And that's about me. I'm not even talking about you. I'm talking about what I heard. But watch this. Just because I heard you doesn't mean I understand you. Okay? And I teach this often. It is because we all have different internal dictionaries by which we define the world. Okay? All of us have different internal dictionaries. And so our dictionaries may have the same words as our partner, but they don't mean the same thing, right? They don't mean the same thing. So when I repeat back what my partner said to me, yes, I heard, but I probably don't understand because the words that she's speaking and the words that I hear means something completely different in my dictionary than it does in hers when she spoke it. So the remedy to that is when my partner speaks, I repeat back what I heard, my interpretation of what I heard, and I started off with, "Are you saying?" And my goal is to get a yes. When I hear the yes, then that means we both know that I understand you. So, wife will say, "You know, I'm blah, 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 and I feel blah, blah, blah." And so then I'll say, "Okay, so are you saying blah, 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 then blah, blah, blah?" And she says, "Yes." I was like, "Okay, cool. I got you." Right? Very different than just repeating back the words. So, um, doing that, having that communication skill automatically eliminates the fact that we're two different people because Everybody's two different people, but we need to understand each other. So going back to having that marriage mindset, part of the marriage mindset is understanding, being committed to, I need to understand my partner. Not I need them to understand me, but I need to understand them. Okay? So, hope that was helpful. Those four questions, I tried to answer them in a way that was meaty enough, but not too long. Okay. So, we've come to the end of the podcast for today. I appreciate you guys for listening. As always, join me next time and check your emails. If you want to subscribe to my email list, go to Clifton at cliftonbrantley.com and you'll be on the email list and you'll be able to submit questions. But not only that, I will notify you the times when I am doing the podcast live, and maybe we can get some interaction. That's something that I'm looking to do in the future. If I do a live podcast, and I can let you guys enjoy with me. All right. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, make it your business to be the best lover that you can be. God bless you. And scene. What's up, good people? Y'all out there in Facebook land? Did y'all? I think I saw one person online. I don't really care. Somebody will watch this later and hope you're blessed by it. But thank you for listening if you were on here or watching or whatever. I did notice, I said I wasn't going to be looking at the I said I was going to be reading a lot, but I realized maybe three quarters of the way through, I really was committed to the audio and I rarely looked at the camera. So uh, I apologize for that. But I'm gonna leave this up anyway because I believe that the information is valuable. So if you don't want to look at my bad camera skills, just turn the video off and just listen because I believe it'd be helpful for you. Anyway, you guys enjoy your day. Today's my off day. It's Friday. I'm about to enjoy it. So hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.